Backpacking gear evolution can be a ton of fun. Most backpackers love getting new gear. We love talking about new gear. We love trying out new gear. The only thing we hate about it is when that new gear fails. Today we're going to talk about 5 pieces of gear that have failed me miserably. And when I say failed me miserably, I mean failed worse than the Calgary Flames in the 2022 Stanley Cup playoffs. First up, we're going to talk about a piece of gear that's almost exclusive to me on the YouTube side of things. This is my Key 10,000 milliamp battery bank. This little guy here is what I relied on to keep my electronics topped up for anything up to a 4-day backpacking trip. I found that 10,000 milliamps was more than enough to keep my phone topped up and my inReach and my headlamp and any other electronic devices that I'm carrying with me out in the backcountry. Now, I was out on a 6-day backpacking trip and my battery bank completely failed. I went to top up my phone on the very first night and had absolutely no charge in my battery bank. And I know that I had it topped up when I was at home. I was fortunate enough to have an extra battery bank with me, so I was able to get through that trip and keep all my gear topped up and do all the filming and, you know, all that other stuff that I need to do when I'm out there in the backcountry. Since getting home, I have not been able to get any charge out of this device. I've tried charging it with multiple different cables, multiple different little outlet adapters. This will not hold a charge. Well, it did work for a couple years. It eventually crapped out on me. And yeah, sad times. I have since replaced the Key 10,000 milliamp battery bank with the Nitecore NB 10,000. For any backpacker out there, be it ultralight or, you know, just regular weight backpacking or heavy backpacker, whatever you want to call yourself. If you're looking for, you know, a battery solution for out in the backcountry, got this little cool carbon fiber design on them. These things are sweet. This has not failed me. It's got, you know, multiple charging ports. You can use regular USB, USB-C, handy little thing to have. This guy here, if you don't recognize, this is a Platypus 2-liter gravity-fed water filter. For me, this worked great for about a year. And then the filter clogged up and I could not unclog the filter. The tubing and the bag and all that stuff still works great. Fail on this system for me was the filter itself. I did not let this filter get frozen. That wasn't the issue. It just clogged up. I've tried back flushing it every possible way. I've used the syringe from a Sawyer filter to try and back flush it. I've tried back flushing it the way that Platypus says to do it. Luckily, I was out with some friends who had spare filters and I was able to use their filters to get through the trip. I have since switched away from the gravity fed systems and I've gone to a more squeeze style filter, the Platypus Quick Draw. Drop me any questions you guys have about any kind of water filter systems. You know, if you're looking for the best type of filter for you, I'd love to help you guys out if I can. This is my Salomon Speedcross 4. This was my go-to trail runner that I used for a number of years. And this particular shoe, I never had any issues or any fails with. Just over time, you know, the treads wore out. Treads are very worn out on these shoes. There's a bunch of holes in the side, so I was getting debris in the shoes. And these have since just become my lawn mowing shoes and my around the yard dad shoes at home. When these trail runners here were on their last life, I upgraded to the Salomon Speedcross 5s. The Speedcross 5s were a major step back from the Speedcross 4s. Just a plethora of issues with those shoes. I really wasn't a fan of them after like 2 backpacking trips. First and foremost, the tread. Now, very similar type tread where you've got this little toe cap that comes up the front. And on my Speedcross 5s, from here down to here on both shoes, this whole tread peeled completely off. You know, kind of in like the back of the shoe here where your heel sits, you've kind of got that little bit of like cushioning that kind of like holds your heel in place. That cushioning like separated from the inside of the shoe and slid down. So it just sat like right on the back of my heel on the very bottom. And it never really gave me any support at the top of my foot, and my foot would just kind of rub. And I was having to put Leuko tape on the back of my feet to avoid any blister issues. I used a different material on the Speedcross 5s as opposed to the Speedcross 4s. It's supposed to be a little bit more resistant to, you know, cuts and abrasions, but they really did not dry out all that well. You know, a little miserable walking with, you know, wet, damp feet. This is an old school MEC or MEC inflatable pillow. This is the first inflatable pillow I ever used. It's got this little twist cap here at the end. You blow your air into it, you squeeze it out to deflate it. It's got like a foam inside of it. So it's not just an air pillow, like it's got, you know, some kind of, I don't know, material inside of it that like helps it kind of self-inflate, but also makes it feel a little bit more like a regular pillow. It's not one of the ultralight pillows. I was not always an ultralight backpacker, so, you know, this is what I was using when I was carrying some heavier gear. The big issue I have with this pillow is it's actually the fill valve. My pillow sprung a leak. It's obviously not the end of the world. You know, your pillow springs leak. Holy crap, first world problems. To me, comfort and a good night's sleep out in the backcountry is one of those really, really important things. And when my pillow crapped out on me, I was pretty bummed out. On this little seam here, just between the fabric and the plastic piece that holds the fill valve in place, I tried filling it with crazy glue and any other, you know, silicone and anything else I could think of to cram in there to try and stop the leak. Could never really get that leak to stop. And yeah, just sad times for, you know, what was at one time my favorite backpacking pillow. Now she is doomed for the dumpster. Most of these have been pretty minor inconveniences when it comes to gear fails. I mean, I guess besides the shoes, you know, it was pretty major. But we did have one very, very major gear fail on a piece of gear that I relied on for years. I swore by, I loved my trusty, tried and true Thermarest Evolite sleeping pad. I had a fill valve issue, very, very similar style fill valve to the pillow. Now you've got this screw cap, you blow into the end here. You know, you've got the fabric around the plastic piece. Surprise, surprise. The fail on this sleeping pad was the exact same as I had on the pillow. I had a leak between the fabric and the plastic that holds the fill valve in place. I could get the leak to slow down to the point where, you know, I'm only really having to bump up the air pad once or twice throughout the night. But that's a huge inconvenience. I hate that. I want to fall asleep and sleep through the entire night. The only thing I want to wake up for is to go take a pee. I don't want to wake up because I'm uncomfortable. I'm hitting the ground. You know, my hip is on cold ground. I'm grumpy. It sucks. It's not a good time. Thermarest has since discontinued this sleeping pad, and I have since moved on. I upgraded to a Nemo Tensor air pad, different style fill valve, higher R value, on honestly a much more comfortable air pad. So maybe this is one of those fails that was kind of a win for me at the end. Now, obviously these 5 pieces of gear are not the only pieces of gear that I've had that have failed on me. I've actually shot a couple other videos on backpacking gear that has failed on me, and I'll fire those right here for you guys. So when you guys are done with this video, check those out. I'm sure you'll enjoy what you find there. And as always, I'm Matty. Thank you so dang much for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.